Today we're going to take a look at my third life principle, and that is learning. So don't go away because it's going to transform your life on developing that learning mindset. So far in the Life Principles series, we've taken a look at my little triangle. When the bottom left-hand corner was truth, then we had trust. So truth was all about, being a seeker of the truth, but it's more of a mindset of seeking the truth, because the truth will ultimately always set you free. Yeah, and the right-hand corner was trust, and trust was all about having a long-term mentality, developing trust over time. And then we have the top part of it, my little triangle of life principle, and that is learning. Yeah, learning is a really interesting one. Yeah, it's more of the escape hatch. Yeah, and what I mean by the escape hatch is that when things go wrong, in other words, hey, you told a lie or not quite the truth, or remember there was lies of omission or commission and things like that, or you weren't really that trusting person or trustworthy person you should have been. Learning is there to say, okay, what did I actually do here? How did I get myself in this mess? And how do I learn from that mistake? And it's one of the most powerful mindsets you can ever develop in your life. Too many people I find they just seem to just go on the merry-go-round of life. Like a life lesson comes around, and rather than learning it, they just go around the merry-go-round again. And rather than learning that life lesson again, they just go around again. And they have the same issue come up time and time and time again. Yeah, and I look at them and I sort of think, man, when are you going to get off the merry-go-round? Yeah, there was a really good movie. It was called Parenthood, quite a number of years ago. I think it was one of Keanu Reeves' very first movies. And it was a great movie because there was a scene in it where this grandmother was talking, giving advice to her grandson, and so was saying, some people like the merry-go-round of life. I prefer the roller coaster. Yeah, and learning is a bit about that as well. Is a roller coaster is going somewhere. Merry-go-round just go around, around, around. So if you look back at your relationships, say personal relationships, and really take a hard, cold look at them and go, well, why did that fail? Why did that go wrong? Has the same issue come up before in a different relationship? Could be a friendship, could be a family members, whatever it is. Has it come up again? And if you look at it and the whole sort of the 2020 vision of hindsight, and you sort of say, well, yeah, I've been wrestling with this issue in my life time and time again. I'm on the merry-go-round. And, maybe it's time for you to get off. Just to get off that merry-go-round. And the way you get off is to learn. It's to sit down and learn. Now, how do I personally learn? I find there is three different ways I learn, or times I learn anyway. The first time is I actually go away. I go away to, I don't know, a hotel or a resort or something like that for a few days. I try to do that probably about every 12 to 18 months. The reality is probably a little bit longer, trying to carve out a few days where the sole point of me going away is to really look at my life and go, okay, what's working, what's not working, and do some serious learning. That's really allocating that time aside. And I found that when I read different biographies of people, or I look at the lives and habits of different successful people, and a lot of them have this same sort of thing that they do, is they go away. They get away from the noise of the everyday cut and thrust, say, of business or whatever it is, and they go away and just to focus on learning or looking at their life or understanding what's going on and happening inside of them. And I find that's absolutely invaluable. And I tend, when I go away from those times, I tend to come away with a whole stack of changes I need to bring in my life. For instance, as an example, I went away about the end of April last year, And I had like a list of things to do a mile long. Like some people say, oh, figuratively a mile. Mine really was a mile long. There was just so many things to do. And, and I wrote them all down. And I said to myself, okay, what do I need to do here to get out of this sort of this grind I found I was in? And the first thing, the word I got coming to me was, I got to be deliberate in every aspect of my life. And I wasn't being deliberate. I was being driven by other agendas, people's agendas and stuff, wanting to please them, or whatever the reason why was. And so I went away and I looked at my list and I said, be deliberate, be deliberate. And I culled a whole lot of it. And I made a stack of calls when I got back to say, sorry, that was a great opportunity, not going to do it. Got too many other opportunities on our plate. And I then became very deliberate about my schedule and look at my schedule and just allocating time to what was going to have the most impact. So that was an example of learning. There was a whole lot of other things happened during that time. But and during those times, the thing I try to look at is what really matters. What really matters to me. So it's not just going to be about business, it'll be about personal relationships. And I work with my really important relationships and stuff like that, like with Rosalind, my kids, and so forth. And I look at those relationships. Another thing that came out of that time was I used to be up to like regularly 3 o'clock in the morning working away and that sort of thing. And it was crazy. So I said, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. If I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's a rare event versus the regular norm. So now I get up early. I get up like I'm at my desk typically at around 7 o'clock in the morning. And it really came from that time of learning. Okay, so that's the first thing, is being deliberate to go away and learn, being deliberate. Another way of learning is sometimes learning is thrust upon you. Like you're sitting down in a meeting and someone says something and you immediately react on the inside to it. And you want to blurt out, you idiot, you moron, or whatever it is. And you have to learn to just calm down and think and to really do some thinking. And that's a learning. That was for me anyway, to learn to do that. And I'm still on that journey, like many of us are, and to really learn. And sometimes, other times, you're thrust into a situation because, say, in my case, technology is not working. I've got to instantly do learning, and that's tough. It's tough to do that. In those circumstances, because what you want to do is you want to rage at the world or something like that. And I've seen many people do that. They get all very aggravated and yell and scream and shout and so forth like that. But the thing about a learning mindset is that you're focused on how you can change. You're not trying to focus on how others can change, because you can't change them. You can only focus on how you react to those circumstances. Yeah, so there's those two. The third one is, and I put out of the camp of going away and being deliberate about seeking some time of learning. It's like, how can I put it? It's unlike having learning thrust upon you, but there tends to be a little bit of time. An example, I think I may have shared this one other time, where I used to be a seminar presenter on the seminar circuit in Australia. And I wrote this completely new seminar and I presented it. And about 2/3 of the audience loved it and 1/3 hated it. And I felt devastated. Like, you put everything you got into it. And it was a 2-day course. So I remember going away from that event. And like I said, I was devastated. And I was driving along the freeway back home, and I thought, what am I going to do? Like, I'm presenting this in another couple of days. And with a bit of time that went by, even on that drive home, I let myself a bit of a pity party. But then I said, no, I need to do something about this. I need to learn from this. I need to look at each one of those feedbacks for those people who didn't like what was presented, and come up with a solution for them. So with the result, I went away and methodically did learning. So it was sort of thrust upon me, but at the same time, there's a bit of time. So I had time to react to it. So I put that in a different camp of learning. Now, it just so happens that a couple of days later, I did the same seminar, different city, and they all loved it, which is great because I did a whole lot of changes. So I learned. See, learning is having a learning mindset and having a learning direction in your life. It's it's not just like I'm going to learn now and not then and everything, but it's trying to develop that constant focus on how can I learn. So the other thing that you can do is you say to yourself, you know what? If the adventure of life is all about learning about who you are, to me that's really the pinnacle is who am I? That's the adventure of life. The adventure of life is not like trying to accumulate the most wealth or have the most girlfriends in your life or whatever, other relationships. Yeah, to me, the adventure of life is learning about me. And that's a really deep question. And it takes a lifetime to learn. And even at the end of your lifetime, you can actually have the answer. But it's learning about you, about the way you react to situations. It's learning about how you can improve as a person, how you can impact those around you in a positive way. As a part of this, a part of my learning and so forth like that mindset is even these videos. Just how can I touch more and more people, even through these videos, that it will help them, that they can then pass the message on to others of truth, trust, and learning. And I find just having this endless quest for learning is such a positive in life. As an example, you many people look on failure as, oh no, doom and gloom, failure. Well, I actually don't. I don't look on failure. I find maybe I'm a bit more like Edison, who is developing a light bulb, and someone said, oh, you've used all these different types of metals for the filament and you failed time and time again. He goes, no, I didn't. I've worked out that that's not the piece of metal I should use. And finally, he came up with, I think it was tungsten, to be able to use in the filament, and we have the light globe nowadays. Yeah, and I think it's having that learning mindset which puts you in good stead, where you don't see any of your failures as failures, but opportunities to learn. And I know that can quite often be bandied around as some sort of slogan. There's no such thing as failure, only opportunities to learn. No, but having that developing mindset, that learning mindset, it's true. It's true. And so there's many times in life where, even with clients and that sort of stuff, where we failed. We failed. Sure, we have to make amends, and then we say, how do we fail, and how do we learn from this experience? And that's a tough lesson to learn. Maybe I could share another thing with you. I remember many years ago, I just sold a great big domain portfolio, and to be quite blunt with you, it was sitting pretty. I was doing very, very well, so everyone would look at you and go, wow, okay, you're doing well. I got my pilot's license, put the kids through private school, did all the things I needed to do. And I wanted to go and form a domaining company. But here's the difference. I could have done it myself. And I could have said, well, I've now got all of the equity and do it myself, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. Yeah. But I looked around and said, no, I want to go along and find someone who's going to teach me so much about me. And I remember that time I knew this guy, and I made the pitch for him to get involved in ParkLogic then. His name is David Gibbs. He's one of the most incredible teachers I've ever experienced. And you may say, well, how's that? He doesn't even realize he teaches 99% of the time, I'm sure. He's the best business partner I've ever had. I haven't had any really others, but like in terms of what he has taught me, it's been phenomenal. And he is really a very, very special guy, unbelievably ethical. And the way he can tackle problems, he taught me. Now, why did I go along after David Gibbs? Because He was immensely focused on details. I'm focused on sort of more the high level. And together we made a great team. But more than that is I saw that what I lacked in my life was really focusing and learning to focus on details. And I remember using an example of this, doing expense claims. Like if I go on a trip overseas or something, I'm doing an expense claim. Remember the very first initial expense claims I put in? And to be quite blunt with you, I wasn't used to doing the meticulous, detailed work and all that sort of stuff. And so I put my expense claim in with my business partner and everything because we check each other's and so forth. And he goes, "Nah, you haven't got to dot all those I's, cross all those T's." And I used to hate it. It was like pulling teeth. But slowly but surely, he taught me more and more and more of the importance of those things. And it's what I was looking for in him. It really was. And there's a few times I know I drive him up the wall and he drives me up the wall and that sort of stuff at times. But there's one thing for sure. I think we both have an incredibly healthy respect for one another. And I know definitely I have an immense respect for him. But remember, the core reason why I wanted to go into a business partnership was because I wanted to learn about me. And I wanted to look for someone who could teach me about me, to highlight my weaknesses so I can make them stronger, to highlight my strengths as well, and so forth. So the question I have for you is, who do you have in your life, like a David Gibbs, that I have, who can really speak into your life and teach you about you? Yeah, and they may teach you in weird and wonderful ways. It could be through their approaches to problem solving. It could be through their approaches to relationships or team building or whatever it is. Because we're all very different, very unique. So the question is, who do you have in your life that you can really, really learn from? And that's one of the most critical things if you're to become and develop a learning mindset. Because if you don't have anyone who can teach you, then how are you learning? It's much, much more difficult. So, truth, trust, and learning. I'm going to expand in the coming weeks the relationships between these and how they all come together in such a powerful way, and how the life principles are more than just words, but they're living and they're breathing principles in life that are going to help you out so much. Thanks a lot for that.